You're having pain with Olympic weightlifting. You don't know who's qualified to help you. You certainly don't want to take time off from training. If this sounds all too familiar, you're going to want to watch this. I was talking earlier today with Chad Blomquist. He's a physical therapist and strength coach, specifically an Olympic weightlifting coach like myself. He's the owner of Dark Steel Strength. And we were talking about, what do you do when you have pain with Olympic weightlifting? Any part of it. And our most logical answer was go see a physical therapist. But we realized there's a lot of flaw in that thinking. So I'm going to go into an example to illustrate why that is. When I was a physical therapy student, this is way back before I was actually a physical therapist. At this time, I was an Olympic weightlifting coach. I was on a clinical rotation when I was in physical therapy school, and an Olympic weightlifter came into the clinic. She saw a different therapist, so I was kind of, snooping in and listening to the evaluation. And she said, she started off the evaluation by telling him that she's an Olympic weightlifter. She's having pain in the catch position of her cleans, right? She's like, so she starts off, she's like, I'm having pain catching my cleans. His answer, what's that? Is that when you throw weight over your head? Is that when you throw the bar over your head? So that was the first problem. He didn't understand Olympic weightlifting. He didn't know what that meant. So there was already a disconnect. So they kept going, they kept doing their normal evaluation. He finished up by educating her. And he said, listen, I don't think you should be doing Olympic weightlifting. Seems dangerous based on what you described to me. At least the very minimum, I want you to take at least a month or two off and we'll rehab it. He immediately put heat on her low back and hip and had her do a stretch and then went home. The reason I illustrate this example is because this is how it usually goes down. This is why there is such a disconnect between Olympic weightlifters and rehab. And, I remember being a lifter myself. You hold it in. You don't tell somebody when you're in pain. You end up, if you do, you just keep training through it, because the thought of having both of those issues happen is a definite no. The idea of taking a month or two off from training when you've worked this hard seems ridiculous. And also, what makes that therapist qualified to help you? If they don't even understand what that means, catching a clean, how are they going to help you? So that's where Chad and I circled around to what's the best solution then? If you're not going to see the person who's supposed to be qualified to help you through Olympic weightlifting, to help you through injury, then what's the option, right? Do we tell our coach? Do we just research stuff on YouTube? How are we going to do this, right? This kind of brings me back to, and it's the big reason why I do what I do today. I'm obviously an Olympic weightlifting coach. I work with weightlifters all the time. And so when pain inevitably does come up, we're able to train around it. So I find myself really fortunate to be able to be in this position to help weightlifters avoid that entire chaotic scenario. But not everybody's in that position. So what is the actual answer? Where do we go, right? What do we do if we can't trust the average physical therapist, if we can't maybe trust the system of, this step-by-step process of how the system normally works? What do we do instead? And, it really comes down to a support system and a plan. So I always tell weightlifters, this is what I would say to you as a weightlifter. I would say, make sure that you either have a coach who understands rehab as well, that can help you through injury. If not, at least have a coach who has a relationship with a trusted physical therapist, somebody who understands Olympic weightlifting. Then the process works regardless, right? So you either have this person in front of you who you trust, who's both a rehab specialist and who's your weightlifting coach, who's going to say, this is what you're having. This is the issue you're having. Here is how we're going to address that. Here's how we're going to keep you training. Here's how we're going to fix that pain. Or you come to your coach and you say, hey, I'm having hip pain. I'm having pain in my hip. catching the clean. Cool. I know this therapist that understands Olympic weightlifting really well. I trust them. We're also good friends. We communicate. Go see them. They're going to report back to me. We're all going to be on the same page. We're going to keep you moving, but we're going to make sure we address the problem that you're having. So that's really the way you need to start thinking about if you have pain or if you have even a small injury, how to start thinking about that instead of blindly just following the system that sometimes isn't set up the right way. You could get lucky and find the right physical therapist. There are ones that exist out there that understand Olympic weightlifting. You could get lucky and find that person. But I would be much more comfortable having that plan in place that says, okay, I feel comfortable. If my ankle starts hurting, my hip starts hurting, I know exactly what to do. I have the right team in front of me. I have the right support system that's going to keep me training. We're going to find ways to stay on track without losing my progress, but we're also going to rehab this thing at the same time. I talk a lot about this in my content as well on Instagram. So feel free to go ahead and follow me on Instagram. That's OLY_PRFORMANCE, Oli Performance. Otherwise, click subscribe below. I chat about this stuff all the time. And if you found this content valuable, there's definitely more coming. Make sure to tune in.